Hello, divine ones. Welcome. This is One Divine Light, and today the guides are going to be sharing a message about the dark night of the soul. In addition to this, they're going to be sharing an energy clearing, an energy healing, and an energy attunement. This is in direct response to a few different viewers who have left comments. And a lot of people are saying to me most recently that they're having this feeling that the old things that used to bring them joy no longer bring them joy, no longer bring them happiness. And recently, in the last transmission or two transmissions ago, two people left messages, both Doug and Magic and Miracles Frequency, or Magic and Miracles Healing. I hope I got that right. And while their experiences were different, they shared a commonality, and that commonality is the feeling of letting go of the old and not knowing what the new is and kind of being in that void place. What Doug shared is that there's so many different emotions that he experiences that he feels sometimes like he's going crazy because he feels on the precipice of something amazing and then also feels like another minute like crying. And so this sort of up and down feeling. And so the guides are going to bring through a message about this. They're going to bring through a channel message about this today. And I'll be speaking in both English and light frequency. And so I'm going to begin. Ioroto Koroso, because they're going to begin. Ioroto Koroso Tekarasa, dear ones. Ioro Koroso, today we wish to speak about this idea of the dark night of the soul. Ioroto Koroso, which is actually the light. Ioroto Koroso Tekarasa, it is the awakening to the light. Ioroto Koroso Tekarasa, we understand that it feels very dark as you let go of all of who you thought you were and who Ioro Koroso Tekarasa, like the collective, and the people in your life, think that you are. Indeed, we will travel back to a previous message where we talked about the lighthouse. I'll link that in the description. Because we wish to touch on this again today. So this idea of the lighthouse, that we spoke about previously, and the light that you are inside of this lighthouse. And when the lighthouse breaks apart, and all that's left is the light, and what is the lighthouse? It represents all of the concepts, ideas, and beliefs that the collective has bought into, created, and is in alignment to, and that you yourself, like individually and collectively, all the ideas that you have of yourself. And when all these start to break down, sometimes people would call it like an ego death, or the like death of the ego. And we would say, it is not the death of the ego as much as it is the realization of what it has always been. You see, in our previous message, we spoke about re-knowing a thing. And it's really being called to you now to re-know the things that you knew previously. So this idea of ego death and the ego being negative, and even if we said the idea of the small self, well, it is re-knowing that as what it has always been, but in the process of the re-knowing, it may feel like an ego death. It may feel like the end of an era, the end of what was, the end of what will be. And we say this because you have an idea, excuse me, please, you have an idea of what will be for your life. And you've perhaps even planned that out. And so there is a grief around the death of what once was thought one would be. That was a mouthful. And you see, so you have the idea of the grief. It's not just the grief of the loss, it is the grief of the loss of what the thought of, what the hope of, what the idea was of what will be. Very similar to what you see within the world, in the collective right now. There is a collective grief around what was, the idea that things would get better and be improved. And if we are awakening, then why is why aren't things better? So if the collective is awakening, why aren't things better? And we would say it like this. There is this idea that the flower or the seed that's underneath the earth needs to bloom. And in order for it to bloom, there is a certain amount of chaos, you see? Because you think of the blooming flower to be beautiful, like the awakening of consciousness, well, why isn't it all beauty? Because it needs to move through the earth. And in this, there is a lot of chaos. There is a process that takes place where the seed does an unfolding and moves its way through the dark earth into the light that has always been here, the light that has been nourishing it the whole time. And in fact, that seed also contained the light. There's not just an external light source. There is a light within that seed that has an infinite wisdom and is like programmed. We're going to use this word right now, is programmed into the seed to do its unfurling. And in this same way, your own energetic signature, your own soul has this programming of light. You see it as a light program. Yorotokoroso is a light program. In the software, there is a light program. You see, and Yorokoroso, you could think of your physical body like the hardware. Yorokoroso. And so this program is within you and in every cell of you to awaken to the light that you are. And even if you forget it and you think there's an external light source, like you might think that the seed is awaiting an external light source to bring it to fruition, you would be incorrect about that, because the seed itself is the light source itself. You see? And in this way, in addition to this, the ground must be altered and the seed must take its journey through the dark earth to emerge. And even as it emerges, it may not realize what its full potential is. Maybe it's going to be a tulip. Maybe it's going to be a sunflower. Perhaps it's going to be an acorn tree. You see, it may be many things, but the most important thing that it is the light. And this is really the purpose. You might say the purpose is to become the tulip or the flower of any kind, but the purpose is to realize that you are the flower here as light. And that light that was contained within the seed or the soul or the energetic signature or vibration that you carry, or the vibration of truth that all is and you are and is in every cell and is in everything and permeates all things, is that this is the realization. It never was to be the tulip, you see. Like we said previously, it never was to be the lighthouse. And so in this unfurling, excuse me, when you start to move through this dark earth, you of course feel lost. But there is a part of you that knows and is moving more fully into the light, even though you might feel lost. And we would ask you this question that sort of begs an answer. Is, how do you know that you're lost? Something in you must be found to know that you're lost. You couldn't know that you were lost unless you knew that you were found. To know lost, you must know found. You understand? And there is an infinite seed within you that is unfurling and projecting you, one, towards the light, And 2 is unfurling the light itself that you are. As you are becoming undone, as the seed is becoming undone, you are actually being set free. Ioroto koroso, you are being set free. Anasayata koroso, and it's so beautiful. Anasayata koroso, koroso. This feeling of being set free really, and it brings tears to my eyes because it's so beautiful. It's so joyful. This feeling of unfurling, that you are being unfurled. So when you feel like you are being hurled through the darkness, you feel like you are lost, you are actually being undone. Yoroto korosoto koroso. And what is being undone? It is all the binds and shackles so that you are free. Yokoroso, the freedom that you are is being exposed, really. Ioroto korosoto korasai takara. Excuse me, please. And so we would say, that on this day, as you know time and understand time, and on this day, you are free, as you have always been free. Now, you may not feel like you are free, even though you are. So, as you are unbecoming who you think you are becoming who you are. And this is happening automatically. A lot of you are running around going, what's my purpose? What should I do? I don't know my purpose. And we would say it is to gracefully be undone. That is really the grand purpose. The grand finale is a surprise. It's always been here. You've always been it. You've always been light. You've always been this source energy in form. In forming a field. And now more and more are informing the field of its existence. Of the existence of the light, of the existence of the true nature of all things. And so then you would say, well, then if it was this way, why am I not experiencing more glorious light? And we would say it is for this reason. The ground cracks, the earth shakes, and the ground cracks. And in this way, what was underneath comes to the surface, to be seen. And so we would say that this is a necessary part, and it is a re-knowing of everything that you believed things to be. And it is not following the status quo. And a lot more people are choosing to not follow the status quo, not follow the prescriptions of old. And they don't mean medical prescriptions. They mean just the ideas and beliefs, the things of old that have been passed down. And what we are saying here is, as people decide to do this, they sometimes feel lost because they're like, well, that's who I was, and I need that who I was. I need these ideas, because if I'm not these things, then what am I? And we would say, what aren't you? What aren't you? That's a better question. They say it like this. They feel very happy, and they're showing me like a person in a bow tie, adjusting, like in a tuxedo, like adjusting a bow tie, like what? Like very regal. Like what aren't you? You are everything in all things. This is so divine. Put your crown on. Roll out the red carpet. You have arrived. And in every moment you are in the process of arriving. And this is really important to know, because when you feel lost, alone in the dark, when you feel like you don't know what to do because you can't see the path ahead, it's foggy and you can't see the path ahead, and you no longer want to go back, and even if you could go back, you now couldn't go back because you're surrounded by fog. And also, once you Once you move forward, it becomes painful to move back. They're reminding me of my life in terms of that. I've shared that experience also where, once you sort of awaken, you're like, I can't go back. And anytime you do, it's just, it's not a great scenario. It's not. And you probably know that too. Though that doesn't stop us necessarily from trying. So we would say, on this day, it is very important that you understand that there is a light that is always shining. And even when you are in the darkness, there is a knowing of the light. So you could either have a faith, you could call that faith. You could have a faith that there's a light. That might be one way, and that may be helpful. And the other way is to be present in the dark. Fully present in the dark. Which may be hard. Being present in the dark requires you to be present and allow things to move through you without grasping onto them. And that may include the thoughts of the old. As the thoughts of the old come through, like, oh, I remember when, and things were better when. I wish I could just get to a place where I was like I was before, and you will never be as you were before. This is like a foolish, ridiculous, to want to be as you were, because who you are is so grand. And when we say this to you, we say it with a love. We are not saying, oh, you are so foolish or you are so ridiculous. We are saying, why would you want yesterday's bread when you could have today's bread? Why would you want to eat the crumbs of what was left when you could bake a new pie? Why would you want to go to the fridge and pine because the pie is gone and there's only crumbs there, there's only a small slice, and so you're so sad that there's just not enough pie, and you were really hoping to eat what you had before, and that's what you want, and it tastes so good, so why wouldn't you want it? Why do you want the old instead of the new, which will be revealed in the present moment? And in the present moment, even though there might be nothing, there be nothing on your plate, and you say, well, how could I survive without nothing? How could I be in this void of not being anything in particular, or not knowing where I'm going, or not knowing the next thing to do? And we would say it is in this that is really the freedom of becoming. Why would you want to go back to what you were? And we would say the answer is because comfort, but we would also say, why would you want to be who you were when you could be who you are? And to be who you are individually and collectively, as we spoke about before in the Lighthouse message, the lighthouse must crumble. And what happens when the lighthouse crumbles? All that's left is light. And when that light is there, that represents you in your true state, in your divine self, when all of the shackles and ideas and beliefs of past have crumbled around you, and you no longer subscribe to the old magazines, because everything changes and you can't keep subscribing to the old magazines. And they're showing me how previously people would come to the door and deliver mail, and how that changes over time, and now there's internet, and how that will change over time, and how we receive information will soon become an internal knowing, and you will not need to go outside for that information that is available for you on the inside, because in some ways that information is false. But you have the all the software, all the programming you need within your own soul, within your own vibrational signature. It contains everything you need. Everything you need is there. We would say. And when this lighthouse breaks and all that's left is the light, and it shines in its fullness, first of all, there is a great knowing, there's a great peace with allowing all the lighthouses around it to be as they are, to break down in their own time, to come apart. And in this state of being, when all these parts of you dissolve and break, in this natural state of being, and all these concepts about who you were begin to dissolve, you automatically are able to allow the people around you to be who they are and have their messy moments and have their undoing. And you find it quite beautiful because the divine self knows, internal wisdom knows, this is part of the process of undoing. It is a beautiful part of the process of undoing. The unraveling and the opening into the free state that you have always been, the free being that you have always been. And so while you see all of these lighthouses coming apart and things falling to the ground and, people grasping at old identities, people grasping at money, trying to get more, trying to get like I see chaos of just people trying to hold on to old identities, trying to hold on to old relationships, trying to hold on to material things, and this feeling like I just desperately want what I used to have. Because what I used to have was so good. There's that attachment there. The pie in the fridge is so good. I just want to eat the pie, right? That's what I want. Yoroto corazón, we would say. The divine self is okay with people having their chaos, their attachments, all of it, because the divine self knows all that it needs to know, and allows the natural unfolding of what there is to become. And what are you becoming? You are becoming undone. That all that you are is already done. So there is the realization that all is already done. You think you're going to do something, rather you're going to undo, and the doing is already done. It's done for you, you see? When you look in a mirror, and you see the reflection back, you believe the reflection of the mirror, and you think and you spend your life, I must fix that. You think I must fix the reflection in the mirror. So you spend your whole life trying to fix a reflection. You spend your whole life trying to fix something that isn't real and isn't broken, doesn't need to be fixed. It is a reflection. What you see in the mirror is the level of your state of consciousness at any time. We will talk more about that at another time. But for today, we will say, everything that you see reflected back to you is this. You are seeing it as a result of the level of consciousness that you currently hold. So what you see outside here is a result of the level of consciousness you hold. And as you move through the dark, and some of you might feel like you're being hurled through the dark is the word that I'm hearing. Like you just feel like you just keep tumbling and tumbling and stumbling and stumbling. That this is okay. It is the undoing. It is like a rock that has tumbled, and then it becomes smooth and shiny like this, like all the rough edges start to come off it. It's like this. It's like everything starts to break. And if you tumbled a rock long enough, what would happen? Right? Everything starts to break down. And in this way, we go back to the lighthouse is when everything breaks down and there is just light. When the rock breaks down and there is just light. When there is just light, there is no separation. Imagine all the lighthouses being broken down, what would be left? The light. It would just be light. There's no separation between. The only thing that is keeping the idea of separation is the idea that the lighthouse, all the concepts and beliefs about who you think you are, the physicality of the body, of course, seems so real and seems so separate than others. The idea of the mind, well, I'm me and you're you, so all of these ideas breaking down just leaves light. And there is no separation. And then when one light shines and it helps all the other lighthouses break down, because all the other lighthouses go, oh yes, this is possible. This is what I am. I am this. And they break down. And this is what you're seeing. So of course, it may not seem on the surface that things are good. It may not seem that on the surface things are right. You may say, this isn't right. You may say, I don't want to feel this way. We would say, who is the you that is feeling this way? It always comes back to this. Being present in the dark allows you to realize the light is also here. But if you are always running through the dark, or even if you're being hurled through the dark, if you think that this is bad, rather than it just is part of, it's an isness, it's just part of the process. You all like the prescription. So they're showing me how within, like in yoga, like in the yoga sort of world, if you would, how there is a magazine. So I used to have like a yoga journal magazine and these yoga magazines that I would get. And, it was always like 5 ways to beat anxiety, 5 ways to cure this thing, 5 ways to do this or that. And this is very limited. So while 5 things could help, they may not help all people. And it's just like a very limited box, right? And in this way, rather than trying to manage the perceived problem, what if it wasn't a problem at all? What if it was just part of the whole thing? So what if it was just part of the whole journey? What if it was just part of the process that the seed took in the eruption of the transformation into what it has always been? Sure, was it a seed? Sure. Sure, was it a like stem? So they're showing me like a stem without a flower. So they're showing me this like roots and a stem without a flower. Sure. What about it has a flower? Sure. You could say now it is like fulfilled its destiny. And what about that it has a name? Now it's tulip, and now it's sunflower. Now it's daisy. What if the purpose was none of these things at all? It was just the whole journey that the flower took only to let go of all of the concepts and beliefs. And what if the whole purpose of the flower and even seeing the flower was for humanity's benefit, to realize the flower not as such, not as a flower at all. Maybe the whole idea of flower was never any of the concepts that you gave it, but was only the reminder of the emptiness of the flower's, the emptiness of the flower's existence. This isn't it. The emptiness of the flower, period. It's empty of all the concepts, yet it is full of the light that it has always been. And so while you see this flower take shape or transformation in many ways, and some of the flowers may not bloom and they may struggle and they may only go through part of the process. So you may think like a good life lived would be to live a long life and fully bloom into the tulip you were meant to, like live to 100 or do whatever. This is like a good life. And we would say whether that life is like a plant that, struggles and that doesn't come fully to fruition, that this is an equally good life. You see, it's not that just because maybe someone passed away early, that isn't a good life. That is the perfect life for that perfect time, for whatever needs to be known, needs to be shown. There is a divine plan. So we are not saying that you are not sad about the loss of people. We are not saying you're not sad about the loss of a plant, or a plant fully not blooming when you spent so much time tending to the garden and doing right, whatever you thought you were doing, everything right. So we're not saying there's not sadness about this. We are saying that even though you may have these ideas about, what a life lived means, or what a flower dying, or your garden not fully coming to fruition and no vegetables, even though you put all the work into it, well, maybe you needed to strengthen your muscles. Maybe you needed to be in the sunshine. Maybe you needed to know something about dirt. Maybe you needed to know something about loss. All of these things are supporting whatever is the next step and the next step and the next step. And we would even say beyond what you call this life. You only think of it as in like one life. So we would say that this is just like one blip on the map that can't be thought about in such a box, in such a linear way. So we would say that the grand illusion dissolves, and you know the light that you have always been and all is. However, you may need to go through the dark night, and we would say in these cases, yes, there is the faith, but also there is the presence and being present through, without the idea that you need to pull up the GPS and find out where you're going, or the desperate clinging to the past, or the just wanting to have something to cling to. What if you didn't have something to cling to? And what if you stopped trying to cling to something? How much freedom would be there? And we would offer you this idea of, could you just really find the peace in this idea if you stopped needing to cling to an outcome for control or safety? If the need to cling was just gone? What would you do if you weren't clinging to the rock? You would float. What would happen if you weren't clinging? They're showing me a dryer sheet that people would put in their dryer to stop clinging. And in this way, we would say, you would be tumbled around, and you wouldn't cling to anything. You wouldn't try to cling to any other clothing. And we would say, in the same way, is to release, please control, and allow the undoing, which is really the becoming of all that you are. It is opening into the becoming, the realization of all that you are. And that process takes longer, the longer that you cling to the old. And the process takes longer the more that you struggle and fight against it. Go with the flow of it. Dive into it. Open up to it. Doesn't that even feel Iorotokoroso like a better, iorokorosotakorosa more aligned. Iorotokoroso instead of trying to, it's like seeing the falls. Iorotokorosotakorosa like the falls. Iorokorosotakorosa like I'm seeing a waterfall here. And going, oh my gosh, I don't want to go over this falls. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Surely I might die. I could be injured. I don't know. It's so horrifyingly scary to me. I got to swim. And swim and swim and swim. And so much time and energy and mind thoughts about how bad this is, keeps you swimming, trying to swim against the current instead of going. And you don't know what that might bring. Yorokoso, because in your mind, you have built this great big waterfall that surely is going to be horrific. And Yorokoroso, when you go with the flow, you might find that it is just like the tiniest little bloop, and that actually you just float right over the edge. That you could float over any time if you just stop swimming against the current. Now we wish to bring through energy clearing, energy healing, and attunement to support you. As you realize you have never needed support. The truth of who you are, that glorious light inside of that lighthouse, shines brightly when you release all of the old ideas about past. And in this way, you realize the light that you always are and have been. Never needs for anything. So your heart, our heart is one heartbeat. One thread through all of existence, one pulse of life. Energy clearing now. If you say yes, then we say yes. Sanaya toro shia protoso kia paktai shio toso sanashai lai sania waya tokia payana sod hia parasai shi peace and harmony resides as it always has. Ioroto koroso been here. Now, Ioroto koroso tokia pakarasa takarasa energy attunement, please. Excuse me. Iatarekarasa. Niotorukusu, Itoi Capatasi Kyoto Kia Pakatashai Kyo Potashkia Pokotu Kia Pakatua, Iayaturuko, I say, Tiuktisi, Kotashia la Tini Wataishia, a night you eye to what see Shimiwai. Chichiai, Puktiati, Chikia Puktushui, Ptachkrata, Takarosakarete, Kidechkrata, Theater Shia Matasai, Lashia Matai Sokia Patashai, Etekanese, Shai, Alaisai Kanasai Shai, Konasai Katachakratata, Shiana Katata Skoratata, Chkarapatatashi, Anisio Koteshi, Alana Saki Pukoteshe, Eshe, Weshe, and Isia Patasha, She, we say. Psyche shu apai sai. Energy healing yana sayasho. And this is coming out from my hands and my heart and my feet and my crown. Yo korosata karasa and my throat. Yo to korosata kiyata karasa karasa. And I say karasa like an energy beacon. Yo to korosata karaso. Anasali. Pioturuku su shiai. Naya sayai kayai kiapai niai si seshia saya shialai. And peace, Yoro Korosa pervades Yoto Korosa as it always has, Yoro Tokorosa, and they are sharing an energetic hug. Yoro Korosa is like an attunement. Yoro Tokorosa is like an energy attunement. Yokorosa to your energetic body. Yoro Tokorosa, and you can hug them back or connect with them in any way that resonates with you. There is no best way. There are just many ways up the mountain. Shortcut, long cut. Any way you go, it will be laden with challenges. But those are opportunities for you to strengthen your muscles. And those are opportunities for you to move with grace and ease and peace over top of the challenges, to move through them, over them, and finally beyond them, and having a reverence for each of the challenges, because they are all part of what brings you to the awareness of the truth of who you are, the true nature of all things. And sometimes you need to go through the challenges, go through the dark, and as you do, you reknow the dark as light. Everything was the opportunity to unbecome and then to become, and to be who you have always been. It is being undone for what is already done. You have spent your whole time thinking that you have to do something rather than just be who you are. You don't even have to be something. People would say, be something, be something. What are you doing with your life? These are the kinds of concepts and beliefs that are being undone. Ya kiotara kiete, e kiete o kore shia mai e te kia. Sala shaya kaya paya laya. Tori. You can hear it being shouted through the rooftops. The song is playing. The truth is known. So shall it be as it has always been. And we love you. Thank you. Inisi otoro korosote kia karasate 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 karasate. Shalayataya sayataya shaiki. Siatoro shomaya. Pardon me. Okay. Inihaya sayatara karaso. Thank you so much to the guides for sharing this energy message today, this clearing, the attunement, the healing, all of it, all of it, all of it. Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing in this experience with us. And as always, we are sending you so much love. Thank you